Hi, this is Beth Billings with Around the Table Yarns, but you're seeing Lindsey Fowler, the designer of our sock club sock pattern, the Wandering Lost sock. And Lindsey is going to walk us through the stitch pattern for this sock today. And if you have any questions about it during this Zoom, you can ask those questions. We do Sock Club with paid patterns, and Wandering Lost is a paid pattern that we can order or get on Ravelry. Because of that, we don't show details of the pattern, the printed pattern, or the digital pattern on our Zoom recording, but Lindsey can do whatever she wants because it's her pattern.
And I will say, you of course buy it through Around the Table, but also I'm going to put up a sock promo tonight because I have another sock coming out. So if anybody wants to get 35% off any of my sock patterns, take a look at my Instagram tonight. The code's going to be summer socks.
Summer socks. So if you get it through Lindsey, so follow Larkspur Knits on Instagram to get that. And I can put that in the chat if I can find the chat. Okay, over to you.
Okay, well, I'll talk a little bit about the pattern first because this is a really old one for me, and it was really fun to kind of revisit this one. I feel like this one's always kind of been like one of my personal favorites, and it's kind of a sleeper. Like, it's done fairly well over the years, but it's not like one that really boomed for a while. Like, it kind of ebbs and flows, and people find it and are interested in it and share it, and it's just fun to see it kind of like still kind of have some longevity even all these years later. I'm trying to remember what year it came out. I want to say it was like be 2017 or 2018, which feels like a lifetime ago at this point.
Probably tell me. Can you just say it came out in May of 2019?
Perfect. Oh wow, okay.
Can you say the code again? Is it summer socks, all one word, spelled out summer,
Yes.
SUMMER?
Summer socks, all one word, no space, all caps, which I don't know if it makes a difference or not.
I didn't do it all caps.
I don't think it makes a difference. I think it'll just go through, but
you want to look for Larkspur Knits.
Yes. And it's on my website or Ravelry, so either one. But this is the sock, if you guys haven't seen it. This was the original sample. I can't find the second sock, which is really funny. It was still in my sock bin, but it was not my first cable sock pattern. My first sock pattern ever was a cable sock pattern, but this was my second sock with a cable. And I haven't done a lot of them since, but it has this beautiful like cable up the heel that goes all the way down through the heel flap, which I think is a really fun detail. I love the way it kind of curves around the bottom of the foot when it's on the actual foot. It's such like a pretty little turn because it's the cable lines up like exactly with the heel turn, which just looks really nice and clean and kind of scratches a nice itch in my brain. But it has kind of this meandering cable that kind of ebbs and flows and opens and closes and just looks really pretty. Wrong. Unless you do it wrong, but that's okay. All socks are beautiful. And it's in this field of reverse stockinette, and then it's framed with these they're called a grass stitch. And the grass stitch continues as almost like a pinstripe on the front of the sock down to the foot, into the foot, and it stops before the toe. But it's a deceptively simple stitch. It gets a little bit funny when you're kind of transitioning to the purl section, where I think some people get tripped up. But it's it was just kind of a way. So I did a little bit of a swatch here. So you can see like kind of a normal transition from stockinette to reverse stockinette like you would normally see. And then I know, if I recall, when I was designing this, I wanted to give it like a little bit of a lace detail on either side of that transition, just to make it look a little bit fancier, and then kind of continue that pinstripe motif that you have on the front of the sock. So that was the goal. But it's a 2-round stitch. So in the first round, when you're working the grass stitch, you do it's like a decrease with a yarn over, and then you reverse it on the other side. But it's not like a regular knit two together or a slip knit. You do like the like a pass one over decrease, and then you do the yarn over. So
slip one, knit one, pass the slip stitch over.
And I'll walk you through it on my swatch. And what's so funny, I noticed when I was like doing this stitch again, in this like large gauge, you can tell that it's not exactly symmetrical, but I find visually on the finished sock in a smaller gauge, you can't tell that it's not exactly symmetrical. So it's just one of those funny things that, you know, I didn't notice at the time. And now that I've done it on a big fat worsted swatch, maybe I would have done differently, but that's, I think, just kind of the nature of design and time. And so I'm going to flip you guys over. You can look at my beautiful ceiling.
There we go.
All right. I'm trying not to hit my volume. My desk is kind of a mess right now, but okay. So here's my sock. Can you guys hear me okay still?
Yes.
Okay. So I made a little tiny swatch so you guys could see, and I didn't do the cable in the middle because we're looking at more of these border stitches and not the center. So I just have a little bit of stockinette on each side, and then 4 stitches with a reverse stockinette in the middle, and then I have the garter on either side for my swatch. When I get to where I need to go. So the grass stitch is 2 stitches. Oh, my cat's here. Sorry. He's going to crawl on my lap. You might be able to see it. Steven's here. He's pawing at my lap. I've got 2 kitties that are like starving for attention at all times. So it's a 2 stitch. So you work all the way up until these 2 stitches. And it's a 2 row stitch. So when you're doing the regular grass stitch, which is what I do for most of the pinstripes, and then for the right side of this little transitional space, you're doing a slip 1 purlwise, keeping your yarn in the back, and then a knit 1. So you're going to knit this next stitch, and then you're going to pass this first stitch that you slipped over the stitch that you knit, and then you're going to yarn over. But since you're transitioning to this reverse stockinette here, and you're going to be going into a purl, you just go over once to create that next stitch. And that's because you did that decrease. So you're trying to get back to 2 stitches. I'll do that one more time. We'll see if Steven comes
So
back.
you're doing a full yarn over.
Yes. Yep.
So when I was talking to the class this morning, we discussed this, and my full yarn over was such a loose opening that I was doing it the short way. So I was pulling it over from back to front to knit to purl the next stitch.
So you probably could do that. It would be a little more closed. I think as long as you're consistent,
yes,
you know, it's not going to be noticeable. I'm definitely very much in the camp of as long as you're doing it consistently, even if you're making the same mistake consistently, you know, nobody's going to know except for you.
Got it. And so, I think that's the case with everything. If you're going
100%.
You're making up your own stitch, that's fine. That's design.
Totally. And as long as you're doing it, at least as long as you're doing it consistently or as a pattern, like nobody's going to know but you. So we're just slipping that first stitch purlwise, knitting the next stitch, slipping that first stitch over the second one, and then I'm doing a full yarn over to get back and ready to purl. So we'll purl those 4. Do you find when you're knitting on camera, you make more mistakes? I always do.
I always do.
Okay, so on this side, it's vaguely mirrored. It's not exactly mirrored, but it visually, when you have the whole sock, it doesn't look like it's got that eyelet, that yarn over isn't towards the center. So for the reverse grass stitch, you're doing a yarn over, and since you're already in the front, in this case, I didn't do a full yarn over. I don't think. No, I didn't. I just kept it in the front. And then you slip the next one, knitting this one. So this is going to create your yarn over when you knit the next one. And then you're going to slip that one that you slipped over that knit stitch. So you're back to 2 stitches, if you can see.
Yes.
And then you keep going. And then since this is not in the round, I have to purl on the other side, but normally you would knit on the other, you know, you just do in the next round, those 2 stitches would be knit. Did anybody have any questions? I don't know if I'll be able to see them, so you might have to read them out to me. My camera.
The other thing that So what we noticed this morning when we were doing this is that as you're, and you can point this out on the original.
Mhm.
So as you're doing it on the original, and maybe could you turn it upside down so that it's in the direction of the knitting, the original.
Yeah.
So the first one that you come to is the grass stitch.
Mhm.
And so we do the grass stitch, and the slip one and the knit one and the pass the slip stitch over comes first, and then there's the yarn over, and then you work, and then you have to purl. So it's the only time the grass stitch is followed by a purl.
Correct.
And
Yep.
then the other half of the sock, the other half of that side, you're doing a reverse grass stitch. It is the only time you are doing a reverse grass stitch. So the two stitches, the decorative
Correct.
stitches on either side of the cable, the first one on the right hand side is a regular grass stitch, but it's followed by purls.
Mhm.
And the other one follows purls, but is a reverse grass stitch. But then when you
Correct.
flip it over to the other side, these are all knit and then a grass stitch and then a yarn over and then knit. So it's a little bit different construction on the instep side for the grass stitch because it's not involving the reverse stockinette portion.
Yep.
And that it's just something to know about the construction of this sock. It looks visually the same, but as you're working it, because of the yarn overs that come before and after those purl sections, you just want to be aware that your yarn over has to travel over the needle somehow
Mhm.
to be able to make that eyelet. If you just move it between the needles, you're just ribbing. You're
Correct. Yep.
just moving it back and forth. And the other thing that we noticed in the class this morning was about the cable.
Mhm.
So the first two cables are the same, and then the second two cables are the reverse.
Yep. And that's how
That
you create this kind of open and close. And then there's like like it's almost like it's
looks
almost
like
like there's
X's
this
and
one
O's.
settled in the yeah, X's and O's exactly.
It looks like X's
It's
and O's, which is
O
really
X O X O.
so if you look at the cable, the first two cables that happen, it's a C4B followed by a C4F. So a C4 behind and a C4 front.
So if you kept doing these, it would look kind of like yours, where they're just kind of
Yeah.
like did one on top of the other.
And then the next two are C4 front followed by the C4 back. So
Hmm.
you've got a right leaning and then a left leaning, and then you alternate that with a pair of left leaning and then right leaning. And so it's just important to notice that. I actually used a highlighter on my pattern for each of the two cables. So I had a pink highlighter for the C4B and I had a yellow highlighter for the C4F. And then it was crystal clear which row I was going to do which cable in. Crystal clear.
Hmm.
And I would like to suggest that we go ahead and do the cabling down the heel. How do you feel about wearing these?
I love the way I mean, they're really cute with clogs because you get to see that pretty that pretty work down the back. I don't know that I'd personally wear them with a boot, depending on the yarn. If it's going to be a yarn that felts a lot, I probably wouldn't.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a great sock with your little, your Birks or something where you can see that sweet little detail down the back of the heel. I have the textured heel option in there if people would prefer.
Yep.
I'm looking at it. I'm trying to see if
I think it's a slip stitch.
is it a slip stitch heel or is it an eye of the partridge?
Either way, we're going to do that next month
Yeah.
because we
Okay.
decided that we were going to focus on just the stitch pattern. So
I mean, this is
really,
yeah, it's so cute with with a little pair of backless shoes.
so there you have it. If you're going
It
to
kind
wear
of
this with
makes it
clogs or
unique.
Birks or your slip-on shoes, any kind
Yeah,
of slip-on shoe,
any kind of
um,
slip on shoe. Those little felt clogs or any of those. Even with like a little pair of like I've got some like wooden clogs that are more of like a sandal clog. It would be really cute.
do you want to give us a little sneak peek at your new pattern?
I hold on. Let me run and grab, see if I can find it. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. Does anybody else have questions for Lindsey while we have her? When she's done. Oh,
You know what? I couldn't find it, but it is actually, it's a release from the 52 Weeks of Accessories book. I don't know if you guys have this one.
we do have
Or
this book.
just the single digital edition of the Banner Day socks.
Oh, fun.
So this is out now. I haven't put it up on Instagram yet, but it is available to buy on Ravelry or in my shop right now.
With the
So this
summer
is,
socks.
I'm sorry?
With the summer socks
With the 35% off. Yep.
code.
So it's just a super cute little, it's a really deceptively simple one. It just uses twisted stitches to define those little banners with like a garter pattern for the top of each of those. And they mirror on the front and the back, which is really cute. And then a simple slip stitch heel and a flat toe. And
So
this is, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think this is because we love having local designers in our sock club, and we are planning next year's Rhoda of socks. Just to let people know that I think this will be one of the ones next year. So if you want to get it with a 35% discount now, you could, and put it in your queue for 2025, and it will be part of our sock club 2025.
Or buy the book.
Or
I
buy
don't
the
know.
book. We have the book.
This, I think, is one of their better. I love their 52 weeks of easy knits, but this one has so many great patterns in it too. It's always hard to choose a favorite from their 52 weeks books, but this one has so many good accessory patterns.
It really is lovely. And we do
I
have
love that they're
lots of
bringing
them at
back
the
these.
store. Those Dickies.
Yeah, I love that they're having like a resurgence. I think it's so fun.
They're
And there's
really,
a few good pairs of socks in here, lots of great hats, especially for gift knitting. I think this is a really incredible book. If you like to make, hats and gloves and scarves for Christmas time.
and if you get this book to do the Banner Day socks, just tell us that it's for your Project Monday and you'll get a 10% discount in the store.
Ooh, even better.
Lindsey is also publishing a new book of patterns next year. And we've already talked about her coming to the store to sign books
I
when the
definitely
piece
will. Yeah.
comes out. So please keep that in mind. If you have books of Lindsey's that aren't signed and you'd like them to be, when we have a book signing, you're really welcome to bring any of Lindsey's books in.
Yeah, we're talking about, we'll probably do a reprint of Salt and Timber, which will be really great since that one's kind of scarce at the moment. I know you guys have a couple of copies, I think, but it is
I think we have one.
Yeah, it's a tough one to find. So I would imagine, I'm hoping they're going to do a reprint of that. And then the new one I'm super excited about. It's going to be, especially if you like to get a lot of value out of your patterns with kids and adult sizes, there will be both. Everything will be in a wide range of sizes for a wide range of body types, a lot of body accommodations for, larger shoulders, longer torsos, anyone who might have a broader shoulder like my husband. I really wanted to be able to have like one book of patterns that you could pick up and knit for just about anybody in your family.
Nice.
Inspired by a lot of my own personal memories with my family. And then there's a lot of really personal patterns in there inspired by pieces my grandpa wore and my dad wore and I wore and all kinds of stuff. So,
well, and we're delighted that it's featuring photography in Northeast.
Yeah, it's so nice to be able to now it's like 15 minutes from my house. So it's not like last time where I was in Oregon and if I forgot something, we're out of luck. It's right in my backyard. So that's super exciting. And we're looking forward to, we have a closed set shoot, which is really exciting too. I don't know how many people are on this call, but I don't really care. We rented a summer camp, which is super exciting. If that gives you any hint as to what the theme might be.
It sounds so much fun.
I'm really excited about it. I'm in the thick of it right now. I'm at like the very worst part of it where I'm like totally overwhelmed, but It's kind of like childbirth. You forget that part later. Forget how hard it was.
Well, we're really grateful that you came on tonight and shared your knowledge and your expertise with us and shared this pattern with us. Again, we don't share the pattern on our videos because it is a for purchase pattern, but it is available on Ravelry, and with that code, you could get it at a discount, more than the discount that we offer. So
I'm
35%.
sure you guys have plenty of good yarn for it too. I know you do, in fact.
We
So
do. We have some lovely yarn. All right. Well, we'll let you get on with your evening, and we really appreciate it.
thank
Everybody
you.
else, don't go because I'm going to demonstrate the cable without a cable needle in case you want to see that. If you don't want to see that, that's fine. You can do whatever you like, but I'm going to do that on this recording as well. All right. Lindsay,
Thank you
thanks
guys
so
so
much.
much. Yep. Bye.
Bye. All right. I'm back. Wait, no, I'm not back. It's me. All right. I'm going to go back to pinning me. And look at that sleeping baby. He's so tired. We got caught a little bit in the rain on the way home, but then it stopped almost immediately. And then we were wearing our raincoats for most of the rest of the way home and just being like, so hot.
We were worried about you when you left, and it started
Yep.
raining.
It started raining almost immediately, and then it stopped. So I just want to I have this little graphic that I did this morning. It's really bad, but I just want to go over this. So the back of the socks have a knit section and then the grass stitch and then the yarn over, and then a purl section and the cable, and then a purl section and then the yarn over, and then the grass stitch and then a knit section. So what we were identifying is that this happens once. This happens, so number one happens once. It's the regular grass stitch, but it's between a knit and a purl section. And then the second one is the reverse grass stitch, and it's between a purl and a knit section. And then across the front of the sock, it's a knit, grass stitch, yarn over, knit. So all of the ones on the front are the same, and all of the ones on the back of the sock are different. There's only two, and they're different for each one. So I just thought that that was really important to underline. And then, as I said with the cable, if you use a highlighter, that would be really helpful to identify. I'm trying to find my sock now. Okay, so as I mentioned before we started the recording that when I did my cable, I did it wrong. And Lindsay was just showing that. So this is the cable to the back. So they're crossing to the right because the first two stitches are held to the back. So it's left, right. Don't know my left from my right. Okay, so when it's a cable for C4B, stands for cable for back, you slip two stitches to the holder and hold them to the back, and then knit two stitches and then knit two stitches from the holder. And that's followed by a C4F, which stands for cable for front, and that you slip four stitches to the holder and hold them to the front, and then they cross to the left. And you do that twice, and then you don't do the same thing again twice. So my mistake is in here. And so I just want to demonstrate the correct cable, and I'm just about there. So why don't we do it right here? And I do the cable without a cable needle, which is like, doing trapeze work without a net. I'll pull up a little bit with my yarn. And I just want to demonstrate this technique in case you want to try it yourself. So let's say we're going to go and do the next one. So we're going to do the cable for front next. I'm going to take my right needle, this needle, and I'm going to go behind the next two stitches on the needle. going to go into the following 2 stitches. So I just kind of snug it in to there. So I'm not only the left needle is coming through these stitches, but both needles are in the second pair of stitches. And pinching below, I slide back my left-hand needle, and then I put it quickly into those stitches in the front. And that pulls them over to the left-hand needle, and these stitches still remain on my right needle, but my working yarn is here. So I need to just very carefully, and I stretch them out a little bit so they make this cross well, and I just put them back one by one back onto the left-hand needle. So I just slid, they were on the right-hand needle and I just slid them back. When I go in, I want to make sure I'm not splitting my stitch. I want to make a nice clean stitch. So I often will elongate the stitch so I can see that I'm not splitting it. I stretch it out a little bit as I go in, and that helps in the cable, I think, because it's very tight when you do a cable. So see how that's now curving around to the left. It's going to the left. So now the next one is a C4 back, and that is going to curve around to the right. So you do, so instead of slipping this to another needle, a cable needle, and holding it to the back, I'm going to slip my right needle. This is a little bit easier, but I'm going to slip my right needle into the fronts of these 2 stitches. Now this is something that I've done a lot, and it takes a little bit of practice. And then I pinch underneath those 2 stitches, gently take my needle out, and then catch them behind. And now I've got those coming over to the right. These are over on the left-hand needle. I've rearranged them, and I slip this carefully. So pull up and stretch them out a little bit if you want to, because you want to make sure you don't split them as you move them, and you don't split them as you work them. And then I'm going to knit those 2 stitches. And that makes the correct shape. It's like a little O. So I just find it fussier to have to get my cable needle out for these tiny little stitches. If I have to get a cable needle out, you want to try and match your cable needle to the size of your stitches. So you want to use the smallest cable needle, but most of my cable needles don't have the lace tip that my knitting needles have. And so I just don't find them helpful. You could use, if you have interchangeable tips, you could use an interchangeable tip as a way of moving them if you need a third needle in the mix, or you could use a darning needle. Sometimes for socks, if I need to use a cable needle, I'll use a darning needle as my cable needle. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, so the only other thing, and I mentioned this when Lindsay was talking, but I worked on my other sock a little bit this morning, and remember she said that her tension, or her tension between the 2 eyelets was different, and she did a full yarn over at the first eyelet where she brought the yarn from, it was in the back, and she brought it around and back to the front. So it's more than all the way around. That's more than a full circle around the needle when you do that. And so what I've been doing is just taking it from the back to the front to purl. So on this one only here, when I do the grass stitch, I just carry the yarn over the top to then purl the stitch. And so that gives a length that's roughly the same as the length before the reverse grass stitch on the other side. So if you do the proper full yarn over like that, then do it that way for the whole sock, the whole pair of socks. And if you do just carrying it over, the shorter yarn over, or the sort of the quick and dirty yarn over, then you want to do that for the whole sock. Whatever, we are in complete agreement, do it consistently and you'll be okay. Shelley says she uses a DPN to do the cables. I agree. That's a good way to do it. A little DPN is a nice one, especially if you can get the glove DPNs that are only 4 inches long. Those are great. And some people have DPNs, period, that they're doing their socks on. I don't know. Liz, could you weigh in on that? So those are the features of this sock that I definitely wanted us to touch on today. I'm really excited about how pretty this sock is. I'm looking forward to having them. I think I'm going to do I don't know, because I don't have many backless shoes. I fall out of my shoes if they don't have a back on them. So I might have to do the slip stitch. Liz,
So would you recommend a thinner fingering, like a light fingering than yarn for this sock? I haven't started. I wanted to see others.
So in the first section, I always recommend doing, if you haven't used the yarn before, a lot of us have done a lot of socks. And so we have a sense of what our shoe size is. But I will say that cables take up some of your slack. But I don't think the ribbing will so much. The ribbing will create a little bit more slack.
Yep.
So it might kind of even out. Definitely with the twisted rib, so I would recommend doing an in the round swatch. Here's what I recommend. Put 40 stitches on the needles and work them in pattern or not in pattern to get a good estimate of your gauge. But I do that as an in the round swatch. In other words, I pull the yarn over and knit every row. Okay. And then I make the socks based on my gauge. Size.
Gotcha.
And that's what we went over in video number 1 of this series, of this sock. Yeah. So if you're doing it with brand new yarn you've not used, you've made a million socks. You have a sense of what, like, that you like 60 or you like 64 or you like 56, whatever. Right. So like that's part of the beauty of doing socks is you get a real sense. Once you've done gauge at least once, you get a real sense. But the sock itself, if you're only doing a 64 stitch sock, the sock itself becomes the gauge swatch. Yeah. So at the point where, we have this much on the needles, get them onto a circular needle or a barber cord and make sure it goes over your heel. Try it on, because
her yarn just looked like it was nice and thick. She likes thicker socks. She likes thicker socks, I've noticed.
Yeah. So you can do this with thinner yarn, but you might have to do a bigger size.
Okay. Yeah, she likes thicker sock yarn, I've noticed.
I will say I'm doing it with my gauge. I'm doing the smaller, not the extra small, but the small size. And it fits. And I would say this is pretty thin.
It is. Yeah, it is. Okay.
This is yarn that we got, that I got when Bloom Woolen came to the store and did a trunk show. It's not super washed. I'm so excited about it. It's like woolly, but I'm never going to be able to wash these socks in the machine.
It was really nice to hear her. It was nice to hear her go over that design. Really.
I love so much having the designers come on.
Yeah, that was very helpful.
It's so nice to make a connection with the people who design the things that we're working on. I just really love that. I'm so grateful that she came on.
That was nice. Yeah.
All right, you guys, you're done early. It's an early night. Next month, Sock Club is not the first week of September. Usually we're the first one, but because of Labor Day, shoot, let me look. Let me look and I'll tell you when Sock Club is because I can't remember. So in September, Sock Club is not on the 2nd, that's Labor Day, it's on the 9th. And it will be the heel. And then I think we're going to push the October Sock Club, the new sock that would normally happen in October, I'm going to push to November so that we can finish this one well. And we'll use 3 months. We'll go into January with the last one of this year, if that makes any sense. Did that make any sense? So we'll do this one over 4 months and that will push us into January for the next sock. But we'll do something easy so we can make that up. I haven't even looked at the, because I'm waiting for my planner to come. My planner comes, I think, in September. And so I don't usually start planning till I have my planner. So, any questions from anybody? Your questions are really helpful. So don't ever be shy. Because if you ask the questions when I stop the recording, then nobody else benefits from them. All right, I'm going to stop the recording.